How we doing, everyone? Hope you guys are having a great week. So I wanted to follow up on the last video where we did the top movies of 2022 and with the bottom 25 movies of 2022. I basically took the list that I had and broke it up into two different pieces. So I saw about 50 movies. I think I left a couple of them out, but about 50. And so this is going to be the bottom half, all the way from semi-like to absolutely hate. So let's get started. I'm just going to list them out, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about why I didn't like it, or if I thought it was kind of mediocre. So again, we're going to start out with that mediocre side and kind of go from there. All right. So let's start with The Outfit. So The Outfit is a movie that's very, very contained. And I don't know if that was to its detriment or whatever. Maybe it was purely budgetary. But it all takes place inside a store, a suit store. So the guy makes suits. It takes place, I think, in the 1950s. So it's all about a suit maker and a girl that works for him that kind of gets caught up in a gangland violence, basically. So I thought the movie was written decently. The end was kind of... the problem was it was kind of all over the place because it felt as if the movie needed time for itself, to be a film. And I thought that some of it was just kind of thrown in there to create time. So anyway, the acting was extremely good. It had Mark Rylance in it, Zoe Deutch, how do you say that? I don't want to say a bad word there. And Dylan O'Brien, who does a lot of films. He was in American Assassin, among other things. So the acting was good. I just thought that it was kind of drawn out for no reason other than time. The next one, which I guess we're going to go from 27 up to 50. So 50 being bad. So 27, we got Barbarian. And I know that a lot of people really like this movie a lot. And I thought I didn't dislike it. Again, we're not in the dislike group just yet. But I like the setup of it. I like Bill Skarsgård in it. I thought that the Justin Long piece didn't really fit. And then we had the reveal, and then it gets kind of comedic because everything that Justin Long kind of throws in there is a little bit comedic. And I thought it kind of threw me off. Like, I liked the whole beginning with Bill Skarsgård, and then once he left and Justin Long entered, it just didn't work for me anymore. All right, next up, 28, we have The 355. I know a lot of people absolutely hated this film, so it should be, even further down on my list. But I really like the actors, and I thought this movie had moments in it. I like some of the action in it, and I like the dynamic between the girls. But it also had the problems like everybody else was saying, where it was kind of forced. Their relationship between them was kind of forced, and the fact that we just kept having woman on top of them. They just kept piling them on, And I thought they kind of overdid it. Like, a 3-woman group would have been fine, but then they went on and went 4, and then they went on and went 5, and then of course the straight white guy is the bad guy, and then they had to emasculate him at the end, and it was just could have been a lot better. Especially when I have my thing called Cats, which is my female spy group. And I see what, they could have done with it, and they just didn't. But a lot of and Jessica Chastain did some of her own stunts. If you watch some of it behind the scenes, it's really interesting. But it just didn't go anywhere. So the next one is Bullet Train. So this was on like nobody's list. Good, bad, otherwise. I think it was just kind of that middle of the road. I liked it, but I didn't like it enough to be in the top 25. So this was Brad Pitt being Brad Pitt, and there's some comedic stuff in there. You had Joey King, who was one of the assassins. Some of the stuff was kind of neat. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was always really good. Him and his partner were always really good. The guy from the Eternals. Sandra Bullock played a very small role. Michael Shannon also played a small role. And it was, when they got to, because they kind of told it in little chapters. When it got to the bottle of water, we were all in trouble. But again, like 355, it had some good action scenes. It had some good moments. It just overall just wasn't that good. Next up, The Adam Project, which was Ryan Reynolds. It was a sci-fi movie about him basically Terminator-wise trying to rescue himself and as a young child. Zoe Saldana, Jennifer Garner had a really great cast. Mark Ruffalo. And it just is kind of forgettable. That's the problem with it. It's fun while you're watching it, but it's just kind of forgettable. So it was decent, just not great, and that's why it kind of falls to that middle of the road type film. And again, I think it was a Netflix film. All right, so then we have another straight to streaming, and that's Disenchanted. So I'm a big fan of the original Enchanted film. I thought Amy Adams just kind of knocked that out of the park, playing the goody two-shoes and, straight out of fairy tale land. And then, she meets Patrick Dempsey, who's this kind of mild-mannered guy. And now we have the daughter is grown up and, Amy Adams is feeling kind of useless. And, she kind of wants to meld the two worlds, and that's kind of what happens. And the villain is played by Maya Rudolph, who she was in Bridesmaids, and she's just in a pile of stuff. And I always think that she's too far over the top. So I really don't like her as an actress. Whenever she shows up, I kind of roll my eyes. She was in The Good Place. She has credits, all over the place. But so the movie was decent. There was so much more they could have done with it. Idina does some of the music again, and none of the music is memorable. I don't know. I just felt it's fun while you're watching there, sitting there, but it was kind of forced, a little bit forced. So anyway, that's middle of the road. Number 32, Dog. So another movie that feels very forced. It feels like, okay, we're going to have to drag this movie out as long as we can to meet the quota for time. And it was a cute film. Channing Tatum did a good job basically acting against a dog, who may or may not even have been on screen at the time or in the truck. But it's basically about, him. He's got his arc. And the dog has its arc, and they're basically figuring out together. So it's almost like a little bit of a romance movie with a dog and a guy. And the dog is female, so okay. But again, it's a cute film, but again, it's drawn out for time, and it was only okay. Next up, Ambulance. Another movie that was not memorable. Again, fun while you're sitting there. It's a decent action film. Jake Gyllenhaal is always energetic and powerful, and he, of course, leads the film. And I will get this name wrong. Yahya Abdul Mateen II. We hear of actors changing their name. Here's one of them that should have done that. He's the one who played Black Manta in Aquaman. And he's about to play Wonder Man because they're race swapping that. And I don't see that fitting at all. He's an okay actor. Not great, not bad. He's just kind of middle of the road. And then we had Isa Gonzalez, who I always like. She had a small role in this one because it kind of she was kind of the thrown in kind of hostage situation where they're trying to keep a cop alive in the back of the ambulance while they're trying to make their getaway. So, but that's it. That's the problem. I think the plot was this big, and it just didn't. That's why it wasn't memorable. It was that it was just a very, very simple film. I think it was a Michael Bay film. I don't even know. It might have been, and it's just in and out kind of thing, and you watch it and don't even remember it. Next up, number 34, Emily the Criminal. I love Aubrey Plaza. I think she's great. Theo Rossi is a hit or miss. He was great in Sons of Anarchy. And then I think he was also in Black Lightning. But he's another guy that you're just like, whatever. She did an okay job here. I just thought that the film, it just didn't take things far enough, I thought. It was kind of tried to play it safe because I guess they didn't want to make the main character into a villain. But by the end, she kind of goes there anyway, kind of. But I thought that if they had just punched it even further, it was about credit card scam for the most part. But I thought that if she became more of a criminal, I think the movie would have worked better. But instead, it played it safe, and it just I don't think it worked as well. So it was okay. Next up is Interceptor, which was actually, I think, produced by Chris Hemsworth. He plays a very minor role in the film, like as if he said, okay, I'll just do a cameo, and then you'll be able to use my name in the marketing material. The movie was called Interceptor, and it has Elsa Patsky in it, and she is the action hero in this. And again, it felt a little bit drawn out because it's about, which is a very interesting idea, but it's about them trying to turn off, terrorists trying to turn off the missile warning system because they're going to launch missiles all over the place, and if the missile warning system's up, then it's going to be a useless attempt. So they break into this offshore type of complex to shut it off, and she's got to do all this gymnastic stuff to get out of the room she's locked in and all this other stuff. It was a fun little movie, but there wasn't enough there. There wasn't enough there to bring it up into anything. But these are, I haven't hit my mez yet, but we're about to hit meh. But that was in my decent pile. So you guys let me know what you think if you watch that one. I think it's on Netflix. Next up is Uncharted. And I was really excited for this film. We had Tom Holland, we had Mark Wahlberg teaming up together in an action film that should have been like Indiana Jones. And but it's based on a video game that looks awesome. Whenever I've never played the game, but whenever I watch the videos on it and stuff like that, the music is great in it. And here we have a very meh film. They almost took it national treasure. And there was a entrance in a pizza joint that they built a pizza joint around the entrance. They lost me there. I was done when they did that because I'm like, nobody noticed this thing, when they built around it. I'm just not buying it. And then they had Tati Gabrielle from Sabrina. I like her. But everybody was saying the same thing. Antonio Banderas was in it, and he was the main villain. And then, of course, they had the twist where they had to make the female the villain. And I was okay with that, but a lot of people had a problem with it. Alana Bowden, who's on this list twice, was also in it. And again, it could have been a lot better. I don't think anybody really loved this movie in any way, shape, or form. That was Uncharted. Now we're into 37 into the still in the meh, meh movies. We're doing Invitation, and I actually saw this in the theater. I paid to see it, and because I'm a huge Nathalie Emmanuel fan. I of course she's from Game of Thrones. That's the first time I've ever saw her, and then of course she entered the Fast and the Furious series as like the computer genius with Tez, and I think they had a relationship, and in the film. And then she did the Thief things on Netflix also. So she's really a great actress. She has a lot of energy. So I'm like, if she brings that energy to a vampire film, I'm kind of excited to see what she does. And then you had Thomas Doherty playing the main vampire, and he's from the Descendants, among other things. And then we have Alana Bowden from the previous film, who also plays one of the vampires. She actually was one of the better ones in there. But yeah, it just didn't get over itself. And the end got into some weird action. It turned into like an action movie at the end, which completely didn't work. It just did not work. And I don't know why anybody said, oh yeah, let's turn this kind of a thriller into an action, into Blade at the end. It's could have been good, but it just wasn't. Next up, we have number 38, The Northman. I was so excited about this because I love the Viking series. I'm excited that the new season's up. In fact, I'm going to need to check that out soon. And who better to play a Viking but Alexander Skarsgård? He's awesome. I have two Skarsgårds, two the brothers, and two on this list. Anya Taylor-Joy. Nicole Kidman, one of my favorite actresses of all time. What a cast. I mean, you can't get a better cast. I was so excited. And then it was such a letdown because it was a very self-contained vengeance story. And just didn't go anywhere. He lets himself be captured. I was thinking this was going to be like the TV show where we're having battles and all this other stuff, and you get one, and that's it. After that, whoosh, downhill. We're at a point where it gets boring. So, sad about that. Okay, next we're going to have the Margot Robbie duo disaster. But I'm still in the mess section. We have Amsterdam. So Amsterdam was with Christian Bale and John David Washington, Anya Taylor-Joy, Robert De Niro, Rami Malek. I mean, they just kept going with this cast. I mean, this cast went on forever. And a huge, huge cast. I think it was like $100 million film. I think it was like 80 or 90 million. And it made like 30. I did go to the theater to see it. I was on a date. And the acting was decent. But then they tried to make it into like this mystery. And it was kind of all over the place. I think that's part of the problem. But at least I felt like I was in that era. I took place, I think it was after World War I, so it was in like the 1930s, I think it was. But at least they stayed true to the era, unlike Babylon, which is going to be on this list as well. But the movie was only meh. It was only okay. And for $80-90 million, it should not have been meh. So sad about that. So next we have Glass Onion, number 40. Going into the top 10, baddies here. Glass Onion, also in my meh section. Yeah, I almost saw this in the theater, but then I saw it was coming on Netflix right before Christmas, so I decided to wait, and thank God I did, because I did not like this film. The best part of this film, Kate Hudson's legs. I don't think she's ever looked hotter than in that film. But the story, I mean, Daniel Craig in the film says, "This is just dumb." Oh my God, it was bad. It was bad, but it could have been good. We had a really good cast. We also had Jessica Henwick in it for a small role. As I said before, I like her. Ed Norton, I really like Ed Norton. I really wish he had stayed as Hulk. But he was in it, played the stupid villain. Janelle Monáe, who I also really like, ever since I saw her in Hidden Figures. I like the hell out of her. I think she's great. Dave Bautista, trying to do more. He's still getting some of that comedy in there, but trying to do a little bit more drama. I know that's where he wants to go. But yeah, the first movie was a lot better. Knives Out, a million times better than this one. This was just dirt. And I had another reviewer that I talked to that I watched the video, and he said, "Oh yeah, they're doing a lot better than Death on the Nile." And something like that. I like Death on the Nile a lot better than this thing. It was way better put together than this, even with Armie Hammer, who I ate. All right, so continuing on to my Met, and this movie here coming up, this one is on everybody's top 10 list. Everybody's like, "Oh, you have to see this. This is so in your wheelhouse. You've got to go see it." And that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. I know everybody's like, "Oh, what? That was a great movie." Just didn't do it for me, man. I don't know. I love Michelle Yeoh. It was great to see Ke Huy Quan in there again from, as I obviously haven't seen him since he was a kid in Indiana Jones. But it was weird. That was the thing. It just took the weirdness too far, in my opinion. So you had Jamie Lee Curtis, had a good cast, and he went to low budget. And the one playing the daughter was also good, Stephanie Sue, or however you say her name. But we have bagels, and we have people trying to jump onto a very phallic. And as soon as I saw the trophy on the desk, when they first showed it, I'm like, they're going to use that. And I still don't understand how even this thing worked, how different things jump you around. The science, science wasn't supposed to make any sense, but for me, it was like, being a sci-fi writer, I'm like, what are you guys even doing? So anyway, it's just too much over the place for me. It was too way over the top for me. And I shook my head more than I enjoyed the film. So unfortunate, but I know a lot of people liked it, but I wasn't one of them. All right, in the last portion of the meh, we have Babylon. So here we go. The next Margot Robbie movie, which I did a whole review on. The costuming took me out of the film. I thought the direction was kind of weird. He didn't do his research on air conditioning and other things at the time. The characters didn't stay true to form from one side to the other. And, the movie just didn't work. And obviously everybody else didn't even go see it. But I went to see Plane this weekend, and that's not doing well either. So I guess people don't care about anything at this point. Although Megan's doing well. And I really like Megan. Okay, so now we're into the hate section. I walked out of the theater going, why did I spend my money on this? Talk about a disappointment. I'm not the only one to say this. I mean, any reviewer you talk to or listen to on as far as their videos are concerned is going to say the same thing. It was bad. It was objectively bad. So you have Chris Hemsworth, who obviously wasn't happy with it either, because he said, "I'm not working with the director again. I'm done." So we'll see if Thor even continues. But I'm such a big fan of the Jane Foster Thor. I had a video that I did on the comic run long before they did this film. And I love the comic run by Jason Aaron. Of course, he's doing crap with Avengers. But for that comic, I thought he did a really good job. And I really like the Jane Foster Thor. I think they called her Lady Thor or whatever else. They didn't do the costume right. That pissed me off to begin with. They made fun of her having cancer. It was just bad. Christian Bale did his best to try to save that thing. Thor got new powers that made no sense. It was just, everything was a joke. There was a threesome with the hammer and I don't know where that love triangle thing with his hammer is. It was just bad. It was just bad. Welcome to the new MCU where everything's crap. All right, then talk about another Marvel movie, although this one done by Sony, and that is, actually, I got one in between. So number 44, Luckiest Girl Alive. The reason I saw this was because I like Mila Kunis a lot, and that's the whole reason I also saw that sci-fi movie she did, like Saturn Rising or whatever it was called. And but this was a woke movie, and woke movies don't go over with me very well. Finn Wittrock, Jennifer Beals, who I had the semi-pleasure of working with on The L Word. I've been a fan of hers forever, and it's unfortunate that she's not the best person in the world. But screen presence, she's got a great screen presence, just a little bit too much diva. But anyway, so the movie was about rape, and it kind of took too long to get to the point, and it just, the whole movie just did not work. Anyway, it was a bad movie. Luckiest Girl Alive, not the luckiest movie alive, unfortunately. So I'd skip that one if you're going to see that one on streaming. So now we're up to the other Marvel movie I was just talking about from Sony, and that's Morbius. So Jared Leto playing the vampire, Matt Smith stealing every scene he's in. And the girl was good, Adria Arjona. But God, what a bad script. Holy cow, it was bad. Matt Smith had absolutely nothing to work with, and neither did Jared Leto. And there was no arc. There was just nothing. It was just a pile of crap. And then I guess they got wind that people wanted to see it again or whatever else, so Sony put it out again. I don't know whether there was some kind of rumor going around that we're going to make more money if they put it out again, and then nobody went to see it again. Oh, just bad. All right, so now we're up to 46. Now we're getting to the really bad shit. Halloween Ends. Thank God I didn't see this in the theater. When it came on, I think it was on HBO Max or whatever else. I'm like, I'll just watch it on HBO Max. Thank God I did. Oh my God, this was awful. So we're supposed to see Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis fighting finally, where there was going to be the ending. And, oh God, they weren't even in it. They took it to a whole other level with a whole nother character that they brought in, and then the daughter has a relationship with this guy, and then he's trying to take notes from Michael Myers, who doesn't talk. So, show me how you kill this guy. It was bad, really, really bad. So, yep, skip it. Next one, we're on 47, and this is Senior Year. Though I like a couple of the Pitch Perfect movies, I do not like Rebel Wilson. I think she is just far over the top. She's kind of like Melissa McCarthy for me, where she kind of just goes on rants. You could tell she's going off script and she doesn't care. That's her shtick. And she thinks she's funny, and a lot of times she isn't. So I got to commend it to her, though. She did obviously and apparently lose weight for this film. So she was a cheerleader, but she wasn't a fat cheerleader. She was a little bit overweight, but as far as I'm concerned, that was a huge, huge change for her. Alicia Silverstone was in it. Justin Hartley was in it. And yeah, it's about a girl that wants to be popular and goes into a coma, and she wants to go back to high school even though she's like 30 years later. It's even a bad idea. Anyway, that's a skip it. Next up, another movie for streaming. And so my last two projects that I did for Showtime, I worked in the COVID compliance team. Because those shows that I worked on, including the L Word, they spent like millions of dollars on COVID because they kind of have to for the unions. For the unions' benefit, they're under contract to do certain things to keep the cast and crew safe, and that included, every other day testing and things to that effect. So I kind of helped with that team. And so when The Bubble came out and it was about COVID, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to really be able to relate to this because it's about COVID. It's about the actors dealing with COVID while shooting. So I can totally relate to this. And I thought the first half hour was very, very funny because of the fact that I could relate to everything in there. So I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. Oh my God, that's so true. And then it gets bad. It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. They would not let them leave the hotel to the point where they had snipers and they shoot off because this has a huge cast, which is probably the reason I even looked at it to begin with. Karen Gillan, Pedro Pascal, Leslie Mann, David Duchovny. I mean, goes on and on and on. What a great cast. But I think it was Leslie Mann's husband that did it, Apatow, so that's why. But Apatow always does this. It starts out decently, and then it goes to crap. And this is no change in that. So Leslie Mann gets her hand shot off, and nobody really cares. And I'm like, oh, it's just really bad. Really bad. So that's another skip it. Next up, so we're on 49 now. 49. So we're getting there. Next up is Moonfall. The reason I went to see this film, has a great cast. Patrick Wilson, love him. Thought he was great in Aquaman 2. Conjuring. What's the other one that he was in with the comic book movie? Anyway, he played Owlman. That was really good in that too. Halle Berry, always a fan of Halle Berry. Not as Storm though. I don't like her as Storm at all. John Bradley from Game of Thrones. The reveal of this film got me. I was like, what? So the reveal, I'm going to even spoil it for you guys because nobody's going to see this film. So they find out that the moon is a construct. So it's hollow. It's a metal inside. It's like an alien spaceship thing. What? What were they thinking? Bad. Very, very bad. All right, so number 50. What's the worst movie here? And it's a movie that I could not finish. And that's how I rated this as being bad. And that is Honk If You Love Jesus. Big Regina Hall fan. I think she's great. What was the TV series that she did with Nicole Kidman about the cult? I thought that was only okay. But normally Regina Hall's really good. And it's not the acting that was bad here. Sterling K. Brown, very energetic guy, got charisma. The two of them together had a little bit of chemistry. But it was, I don't know if they just knew this writer, director, or whatever. And they said, yeah, I'll do your movie. But it was written so poorly, I could not get through it. I just could not get through it. It was just bad. So let me know what you think about that. I don't know if anybody saw that movie either, because that was in and out of the theater like that. That was gone. But yeah, I couldn't sit through it. Well, let me know what you guys think of your. I know that I didn't have Avatar in here because it was so close to the end of the year. I totally forgot to put it in there. Or as far as on the good side, I thought that movie was decent. I didn't think it was great. I thought it was decent. And there's some other movies like Don't Look Up that I don't have on here, which was a like on my low side. It should have been in just the bottom like portion of it because I thought it was interesting. It was very telling, I thought, of the fact that human greed would take over above anything else. But anyway, so that's my list. So let me know what yours are. Let me know if I'm completely off base, which I know that Everything All at Once, I know that everybody else is high up on that one. All right, so if you haven't pre-ordered Tales of Ravenor, please do that. I'm going to have the link in there. You'll see some of my books behind me. So Lords of LA and Destiny Aurora. I'm going to be doing a signing as well. If you're here in LA and Winnetka, I'll put the link down below as well. And the Destiny Aurora audiobook is also out, so I'm going to put the link for that as well. Thank you so much for everybody's support. I now all of fulfillment for Lords of LA is done. Now Tales of Ravenor is up. I'm going to be finishing the editing for that. And remember to subscribe and share and like and all that good YouTube stuff. And thank you so much for watching, guys. All right, have a good one.